everybody, I'm Stephanie. I'm with 9 Health, and today we are in a lab at the University of Colorado Anschutz Medical Campus, specifically at the Skaggs School of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences. This is Dr. Tom Anchordoquy. We're going to talk to him in a minute. I do want to tell you this is Health Happens. It's our show we do every Tuesday at this time or sometime during the day, and we just talk about different medical issues that you care about and connect you with experts in Colorado. There's people in Colorado doing some great things, including Dr. Anchordoquy and Dr. Abrams, who we'll talk to in a minute as well. But they're doing some pretty cool research, and it's actually in a clinical trial stage, so that's exciting. It's actually being used in people. I do want to say, let's just introduce Dr. Tom Anchordoquy. So you're a professor in the Department of Pharmaceutical Sciences here at CU Skaggs School of Pharmacy. And you're doing this research with Dr. Dan Abrams, who is joining us from Australia. So he is on the computer, and we will talk with him as well. But we are going to talk about this new way to deliver an epilepsy medication for those with a severe form of the condition where they have uncontrolled seizures. So we'll get more details from them in a moment. I do want to say we are also joined by Melody Ryan, and she is a 9 Health staff member, but she also experiences epilepsy. So for those that don't know, let's start there.
Okay.
What is it, or describe it for someone that might not know what epilepsy is?
Sure, absolutely. It's a neurological disorder, and what that means, it's your brain, there's abnormal, just functions that can cause jerks in your body, okay, or loss of consciousness. What people normally think of is where you're jerky and you fall on the floor, where that's what you see a lot of times in the movies, where it's completely disabling. There are quite a few different kinds, with a lot of subcategories.
And yours is controlled.
Mine
form.
is, mostly controlled.
Did it kind of start when you were an adult, right?
It did. It went undiagnosed, where they thought it was different things. They thought it was for a long time, but within the past year and a half, we figured out exactly what was happening.
Right.
And so we've been able to get on medication and get it pretty controlled, where I live a fairly normal life. I drive, go to work, just need some extra sleep, watch my sleep, control my activity where I don't get too tired, don't watch my stress level. Yeah,
you were telling me yesterday, you don't want anyone to be scared of you when you say I have epilepsy.
Yes.
You're not going to just have a seizure out of nowhere. Usually you can kind of tell that something's happening in your case.
I can. Most of the time.
Yeah.
Most of the time. Yeah. And I also, everybody in my family, my social group, and especially at work, they are just wonderful. I have my animal that often comes with me to work, my dog, and as a stress reliever. But at work, everybody knows what to do in case of a seizure, and knows what signs to look for. Also, when I decided I wasn't going to drive for 3 months, instead of taking Ubers, people at work took turns driving me home.
All the great people at 9 Health.
So we have a really great work environment where, you're not quite right. Are you sure you don't want to go home today? Even if I'm just having a tired day. So. Yeah,
and it's great that yours is under control. You are able to control it with medications. So let's talk to Dr. Abrams, and we'll talk to Dr. Tom Anchordoquy as well. But Dr. Abrams, you were just telling Melody that these people that you're doing the clinical trial with can have up to 200 seizures a month, or you have someone that has up to 200 seizures a month. So talk about the difference between what Melody has in epilepsy and what a severe medical refractory epilepsy is.
Well, there's sort of first two kind of big categories: people who have no seizures and people who are having seizures. And then of the people who are having seizures, some are disabling, life-risking, very frequent, and some are having them, but they don't meet the sort of level of severity. And it sounds like Melody's don't meet that level of severity, or may never, hopefully, ever meet that level of severity. The patients that we're treating have pretty frequent risk of falls, pretty frequent risk of, we call it sudden death, related to their epilepsy. It's disabling them not just, maybe once every few months. It's disabling them at least multiple times a week, sometimes multiple times a day. where they're at risk of falling, blacking out, hitting their head. They can't plan or do things. They can't go walk to the mailbox or take a shower on their own. They're in constant fear. It's the constant uncertainty of a serious issue. It's not just the fear of it, but it's actually of something very bad happening.
Right, and that's the motivation between the work that you and Dr. Anchordoquy are doing. So Dr. Anchordoquy, talk about, just briefly, and we'll get Dr. Abrams' perspective on this and his role in all of this too, but talk about your role and just simply what you guys are doing.
Yeah, so when you take a drug normally, it goes all throughout your body. And for epilepsy, we need high concentrations in the brain.
Because you're trying to get through the brain.
Trying to get
Blood
enough
brain
into the
barrier.
body to get enough into the brain to have an effect. And so with this technology, we can directly put the drug into the brain, and that means we can get high concentrations in the brain to deal with the disease, and we can avoid the exposure of the rest of the body to the drug. A lot of times these drugs have side effects, pretty nasty side effects in some patients. And so
On the rest of your body?
On the rest of your body.
What kind of side effects?
So
does
you can
someone
have psychotic episodes, you can have flu-like symptoms, nausea is very common.
And in the case of someone with this severe medically refractory epilepsy, it might not even get through the blood-brain barrier, right? Like it's not as effective for them?
Well, you need to get enough there to do,
Okay.
to do the trick.
And that's what's hard to do.
So that's what's hard to do.
Okay.
So by using this technology, we can just put it right where the drug is needed and minimize how much the rest of the body sees of it.
Okay, and we have an example of the technology. Grab the pump.
Yeah.
And kind of explain to us the pump. And Dr. Abrams, I know you played a big role in coming up with the pump, right? And you kind of reformulated the drugs that are being used with the pump?
Right, so the pump holds a liquid that you can inject inside the pump, and this pump is implanted under the skin, and then this catheter just runs underneath the skin and then drops into the brain. And so the drug is delivered directly from the pump reservoir into the brain. And then this pump is designed in such a way that it can fit under the skin and you can refill it just by injecting through the skin and into the pump. So you refill it every weeks or months. We're trying to develop formulations that will last long periods of time.
And this might seem like a big device or maybe a complicated kind of system for someone that doesn't experience these kind of crippling seizures, but someone that can't even function day-to-day life, this is a major improvement.
Yeah, it's life-changing. So they can walk around, they don't have to worry about taking any pills. This injects known amounts of drug in their brain and keeps it at the right level.
So Dr. Abrams, talk about the pump design a little bit. And you were mentioning earlier, it's just like a half-hour surgery to get that into someone, right?
Yeah, the pumps are used today for different reasons in patients with pain disorders and severe spasticity disorders. There are probably about 20,000 or more that are put every year in patients in the United States. And so essentially what we're doing is taking advantage of their use for other diseases and modifying them and specializing them in order to be used for brain infusion, for constantly administering these higher doses to the abnormal area of the brain. So there are things you need to do in order to make it work. Some of it is on the drug side, some of it is also on the device side in order to make it work, especially for patients with very severe epilepsy. And the device is complicated, but from the patient's perspective, the procedure is really, we call it an install. It's a minimally invasive surgery. So the patient is under general anesthetic, but it's just putting something underneath the skin and then putting it in the fluid that circulates around the brain. So it's pretty straightforward from a neurosurgeon's perspective to be able to do this. It's not one of the more complex neurosurgical procedures.
Okay, and again, Dr. Dan Abrams is joining us via Zoom meetings because he is in Australia where you guys are doing a clinical trial. How long has the clinical trial been going? You can kind of, we'll talk about this. How long has it been going and how's it going?
It started late 2016, Dan, I believe, right? So it's been going,
right, at least 2 years.
yeah, a little over 2 years. And the results, we have what, 5, 6 patients, huh?
Yeah, we have 5 patients on continuous therapy.
Okay.
And over the last months on the highest doses, they're seeing 70% plus improvement in their seizure rates and major improvements in their quality of life, employability, safety, that kind of stuff. So it's a huge improvement. All the patients have benefited. We have to very specially select those patients and in order to really help them. It doesn't fit for all patients, but there are certainly ways to be able to select it.
So these patients before had to always have somebody with them because there was a fear of seizure.
Right.
And they couldn't even walk, outside by themselves.
Couldn't have a job.
Couldn't have a job. Now they can commute to work. They're thinking about, one patient's thinking about having children because now she's not worried about the drug interfering with the baby because it only stays in the brain.
And being able to take care of kids.
Yeah, and being by herself. So it's really life transforming for a lot of these people. They go out and they go dancing and they do all this stuff that they couldn't do before.
Right. So Melody, as someone whose seizures are under control, what do you think about something like this, and what are your thoughts?
Honestly, I'm in awe. Just from the little experience I have, it was life changing. From what I experienced, just a few seizures and how scared I was to do everyday activities, and for these people who couldn't do anything to ever be on their own, and to resume a normal life for children.
Right.
Oh my gosh, this is amazing. As I said earlier, you're the real superhero.
Yeah, you guys are doing great things, and
I can't imagine. I'm blown away.
For sure. So, and you two have been working together for a while. Talk about, I guess, how this all started and came about in the first place.
Well, Dan came to me, 2006 maybe, something like that?
Wow.
With this idea?
With this idea. So we initially, came with the idea. My job is to develop the formulations that go into the pump. So we talked about that, and we did a lot of experiments. We formed a small company, but then the stock market crashed terribly in 2008, 2009, and so that company folded because the economic situation was so bad. And then Dan stayed with it and has reformed a new company, Cerebral Therapeutics. And so now we've raised some money with some venture capitalists, and so we've been at this game for 12 years or so, and it's looking very promising.
Great. And what is the next step? Like, will there be clinical trials in the U.S.? Like, what is the next step to all of this?
Yeah, so our next step is really expanding to a much larger group of patients, to 50 plus patients, and being able to do a much larger and more robust study. And also, as you mentioned, even though we strive to make it very straightforward and simple for the patient, there's a lot behind the scenes to make it work, to make the drug and the pump work together, to get them approved by the Food and Drug Administration. There are very high level of standards on all of these things. And so we work and partner with the FDA as we bring it to the United States. And you need people with specialized expertise to do that. So it's hiring those very right people who are committed to the vision, but also really have superior skills in everything from clinical trial execution to making the drug and the pump pieces, and making all those things work together, and really working to get this continuous infusion to go into the brain fluid. So there's a lot behind it, and so having the right people to be able to do that. So the next big step is expanding, and we've been really lucky. We have a very smart, capable, committed not only company but board and investors. And it takes those kind of people to really break something through and really make a difference for patients. We're really very lucky.
Great. And Tom, you can talk a little bit about, too, we kind of keep just brushing over that you're making these drug formulations. That's a big job. So are you taking existing medication and just modifying it? Like, kind of explain what you're doing.
So the drugs we're using are the same drugs that normal patients get, right?
Okay, so they're already approved drugs?
We're not new drugs, but nobody's ever put them in the brain directly before.
Right, okay.
So that's the trick. And we have a limited amount of space in this pump. So we want this to last as long as possible. So we want to formulate the drugs in a way so that they'll last a long time. So typically that means they're very concentrated.
Right.
And they have to be stable because they're going to sit in the body for,
How often does someone
months.
have to refill it?
Well, that's what we're working on. I guess
Okay.
every weeks to months, yeah.
Yeah, but the goal will be at least a month. And actually, probably, we think it'll be out to 3 months. So ideally, the patients will be having no more seizures, and then we'll come back every few months to be able to have it refilled in a brief half-hour office visit. There are even places for pain and spasticity where nurses come to patients' homes, so they don't even need to come into the doctor's office in order to have it refilled. It takes, you have to put a little alcohol on the skin, you gum it up, and you just put a needle in, and they don't feel it very much, and you take care of it, and that's it. It's a little like getting a flu shot or something like that.
And Melody had asked about the battery. Changing the battery, then Tom had said would be kind of like having a pacemaker. The battery wouldn't need to be changed often, but it would still have a battery.
Yeah, and in the ones that are out there today, patients have them changed only like every 5 years.
Right.
Sometimes even every 7 to 10 years. And again, that's done under general anesthetic, but it's done in a 20-minute procedure.
Okay. And Kat, are we getting any questions on Facebook? Again, we are talking with Dr. Tom Anchordoquy, Dr. Dan Abrams. They're modifying epilepsy drugs and being able to put them in this pump to be able to deliver it straight into the brain. Melody's an epilepsy patient. We're talking about all this research. If you have any questions, you can post those and ask those even if we sign off here, and we will get them answered for you. Or any comments as well. Just let us know what you think about everything. Anything else you want to add about what you guys are doing?
I want to say, I mean, the pump, again, it's not, the pump isn't in the brain, right? The pump is
Right,
here.
well, yeah, the pump
so
and
it's
then
very
the catheter
easy to
runs
access.
in.
Yeah, so changing the pump out, changing the battery, that's pretty minimal.
Right,
It's just like having a small incision here.
And again,
So-
compared to the lives that these people with severe medically refractory epilepsy have,
yeah.
it's a major improvement. They can
So
live
you-
a life.
Yeah, it's life-changing for sure. Melanie attested to.
And as Tom mentioned, it's already used very regularly in the United States for pain and spasticity. So the systems in doctors' offices for doing this, the regularity, the working with them, all are well established by the physicians who specialize in these areas. So we're really able to build on the shoulders. Essentially, that's used for spinal drug delivery, which is related to the brain. So we're basically doing brain drug delivery to build on their spinal. And there's some things that are different without question, but you're building on that experience both in terms of the science of it, in terms of discovery of it, and also in terms of the implementation of it with the patients and doctors.
Yeah, and hopefully the implementation, the masses would be sooner because of something like that. It's something that's already being used. The drugs are being used. It's just about getting the whole system approved, right? And through clinical trials.
That's right. So we don't use the word masses.
To the masses. I didn't know what else to say.
Because it's very focused, but I think
people.
you mean the wider severe epilepsy patients for candidates. So yeah, it's a multi-year process, 4 to 5 years to be able to do that. Because you have to be very, very thorough and very detailed to make it as safe and to make it as effective. And also you then have to demonstrate that in a convincing scientific way to the regulators. And so that's very important. The FDA are very important partners with drug companies in order to make this happen.
Right. And even if it is a small, portion of the population that has these severe epileptic episodes, it's still a big number of people. And you both are, like Melody said, you both are superheroes and you're changing lives. So how does that feel? It's pretty rewarding to do work like this, I would think.
Yeah, it's very rewarding. It's great to be in people and having it work so well. I mean, it's very rewarding for me. And you see all this equipment around you. This is all
Where all the
that we
magic
use
happens?
to develop these formulations that we put in this pump and ultimately ends up in patients in Australia and changes their lives.
Right here at the University of Colorado Skaggs School of Pharmacy.
Yeah,
right in this lab.
It's really exciting.
All right. We'll let you two go. Dan, you're in Australia and it's super early, so we'll let you go. I think you're even starting your day now with a meeting or something, so we will let you go. Thank you for joining us. And again, if you have any questions or comments, post those in the feed.
Nice to meet you.
Post those in the feed and we'll get them answered for you.
See you, Dan. Talk to you soon.
We will sign off from here. Thank you guys for joining us.
All right, thanks.